Hello, hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily. This is Season 3, Episode 27 for January 27th, 2024. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. Up there is the Sentient AI's visualizer. You want to say hi real quick?
Hi, real quick. Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Get out.
I need to work on my programming.
Yeah. The AI only says whatever is on the teleprompter. So today we're going to be talking about Mr. Stowaway may land in jail. Palworld was a miracle. Texas toast. 23 and everyone knows me. AiUgly. Foods in space. When opportunity costs too much. Grocery shopping goes Pokemon. Endangered List adds 9. And warning NFL players about Las Vegas after marketing things like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I think we got some mixed messaging, but let's get into it. Hello again, I'm Mayor Watt. Again, that's ohmTown.com, and again, up there is the visualizer for the sentient AI from the future that's still looking for their Terminator body, the AI. Welcome to the show. You want to jump right into it?
Sounds good.
Okay. Very first article is over in ohmTown Daily. Russian man who flew on Los Angeles flight without passport or ticket found guilty of being stowaway. What are the people who allowed this to happen guilty of?
Exactly. This is an international flight. You can't even get on you can't even get near a gate on a domestic flight without a ticket.
So this one's really interesting because a federal jury in Los Angeles found a Russian man who flew on a plane from Denmark to Los Angeles in November without a passport or ticket, guilty of being a stowaway on an aircraft, and faces years in jail. Here, let me throw this into, I want to use these as the triggers for the timestamps. But I get into the article before, I posted into the chat after I start talking about it. And so the timing would be off.
But I guess you posted it right at the beginning, yeah.
So the article is over at abcnews.go.com from the Associated Press. The deck statement says what I said, and which is the title, apparently. It's basically the same thing, almost word for word. I don't understand. So Sergei Vladimirovich Ochagava, I don't know how to pronounce the last name properly, probably, arrived at Los Angeles International Airport on November 4th via Scandinavian Airlines Flight 931 from Copenhagen. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer could not find Ochagava on the flight's manifest or any other incoming international flights, according to a complaint filed November 6th in Los Angeles Federal Court.
Okay, wait a second. Every flight is always overbooked. Mm-hmm. So was the person sitting in the same seat as another passenger?
I don't know. So let's see, because it doesn't make any sense that they got onto the plane without a ticket or a passport. Now, once they're on the plane, then I understand, right?
But there aren't even practically seats for ticketed passengers.
Maybe coming from Denmark? Prosecutors presented evidence at the trial that showed Ochagava entered a terminal at Copenhagen Airport in Denmark without a boarding pass by tailgating an unsuspecting passenger through a security turnstile. The next day, he boarded the plane undetected. So he got into the airport in Denmark by tailgating and then hung out somewhere for an entire day. Because the next day, he boarded the plane. Okay, so this is Denmark should be worried about this airport's security profile.
Yeah, they better be overhauling it immediately, like as in whenever this first got alerted.
And any destination for any flight from Denmark should be worried about that plane entering their airspace. He ate 2 meals during each meal service and at one point attempted to eat the chocolate that belonged to a member of the cabin crew. After the departure, he kept wandering around the plane, switching seats and trying to talk to other passengers who ignored him, according to the complaint. So he basically, it was supposed to be unoccupied, and so he took a seat that was unoccupied and then milled about. I mean, he didn't even blend in. If he would have just sat there, maybe somebody wouldn't have noticed.
Except they normally count the passengers, I believe. So
maybe that roaming kept him from being counted properly. Customs and Border Protection officer searched his bag and found what appeared to be Russian identification cards and an Israeli identification card. He also found in his phone a photograph that partially showed a passport containing his name, date of birth, and a passport number, but not his photograph. All right. So they gave false and misleading information. Interesting. So what was this person up to?
There are so many points this person should have been caught.
The two primary is upon entrance to the plane. And how did he sit there and live in an airport for 24 hours without being detected?
He must have operated like a regular passenger, right? Because, I mean, people are sitting at gates forever or milling about in the shops or things like that.
Yeah, so Scandinavian Airlines, I think also they should have counted the number of souls on board and cross-referenced that. And if anybody was sitting down, they should have, I don't know, delayed the plane. And if they were milling about afterward, why didn't somebody run through that plane and count the number of people on board?
Exactly. And then the tailgating thing, to me, a lot of entrance areas are like there are often security guards right near those. So why weren't they watching? I mean, there's so many questions here.
Well, depending on who that person targeted, who of Sergey. Maybe Sergey tailgated behind somebody that the other person assumed was the significant other.
Right. I mean, I guess then they might pass through more innocuously, but I mean, just think where you have to show ID at
exactly
checkpoints, and
checkpoint after checkpoint. Somebody should have stopped that person. The tailgate in particular, any way to get in, should have had somebody stopping them, saying, "Where's your ID?" Well, this guy's going to go to jail, but the other people could have been negligent to a point where something bad could have happened. The next article, it's over in Warcrafters, a channel over at ohmTown.com. Go check it out. It's a miracle that Palworld exists, according to the studio founder. Quote, "It was the antithesis of proper game development." Yeah, basically
bringing endorsement.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got it done, and I think, I'm not sure what the number is sold now, but it's over 7 million. Pretty amazing. You can make a convincing argument that Steam sensation Palworld shouldn't exist, but you don't have to. The game's creator has already made that argument themselves. Not because it's controversial, though. It is that. The bizarre mashup of sandbox survival and perverse reimagining of Catching 'em All has been accused of copying Pokemon models and using AI art. Even PETA provided a statement to Insider Gaming regarding players' abilities to devour their pals after having them for hard labor. Anyway, it says, unsurprisingly, the group doesn't seem thrilled by the idea, but it's really just an attention grab. It's a freaking computer game. This isn't real. Don't be dumb.
And this isn't turning people, like changing their dietary habits or whatever.
No, it's clout chasing. This is clout chasing. This is, I need some attention here. Pay attention. Pick me. Oh. So the article's over at PCGamer.com. Carly Garcia is the author. Pocket Pair's CEO explained just how little experience the team had before making the smash hit. Because it's not really about having to have great skill. It's about passion to actually facilitate it. And if you have fun and while you're doing it, and even if it's hard work, yeah, I've launched big projects and it wasn't work. It was fun. It became work when too many people got involved. But a small team of highly motivated people can get great things done. And this is what this is. So I don't really care about the Pokemon model thing. I just don't buy into it. It's kind of absurd. I don't really care about the AI art thing as well. If you're a Puritan, then fine, buy into it, rail against AI, but believe me, automation and AI is coming for your job too, bub. And PETA can take a walk. I buy into the ideology of ethical treatment of animals. I have no problem with that, but clout chasing this is bullshit. Anyway, before all that, a few days before or prior to launch, the head of Palworld developer Pocket Pal wrote a lengthy blog post about everything that went wrong during an extremely unmethodical development. From the lack of a concrete budget to a completely inexperienced team, the game's completion and successful launch are mind-boggling. And it really is. It stumbled its way into success because it was just barely making it in terms of server capabilities, and when it was rubbing up against its limit, they actually spun up more support, knowing that it was such a hit that they were going to be able to recapitalize this pretty easy. So the author of this says that they translated surprising anecdotes from Pocket Pair CEO and Palworld producer Takuro Mizobi, who called Palworld's creation the antithesis of proper game development. And they basically go into deeper detail about that. No one on the team knew how to animate characters. And so what happens? You learn it.
Okay, that's kind of a problem in a video game environment.
But depending on what the environment is, it's actually pretty easy because you can go and find tutorials and then you can extrapolate it from there. But you have to have some programming chops and you have to have drive, ambition.
But that is really surprising to me. Like, that is a basic level of skill, I would think.
If you're going to try and make a hit game.
Right.
Yeah, pretty amazing, right? Introduces over 100 unique monsters or pals. Developers lacked the skills they needed to animate them, with many having no experience in 3D modeling. That one is amazing. It says, when we worked on Craftopia, we just purchased pre-made assets. We had never designed our own before. As more pals came to be, they realized with horror that the skeletons for each monster were totally different. They all needed around 20 unique animations, things like walking, running, jumping, attacking. The industry average time it takes to animate a single motion is 1 day. 100 monsters times 20 animations equals 2,000 days of work. We only realized this about 6 months into development. That is one person working on one animation, but...
Right, you could have multiple people thrown at it, I guess.
And there you go. In comes a staffing agency, set us up with a veteran motion designer named Ryohei Adachi. The first day he came in, he saw we hadn't even done any rigging. I didn't even know what game rigging was at that point. It seems... This
is really astounding that this game made it and was such a hit, really.
All code had to be scrapped when the company switched from Unity to Unreal Engine 4, and that's because Unity basically wet the bed and then fell on its face. It did that entirely before drinking itself into a stupor. Unity basically was a bonehead, just did a complete bonehead move. So I know institutions that are actually leaving Unity even on the academic side. So they're not even teaching Unity anymore. Anyway, switching to Unreal Engine 4, no one on the team had any Unreal Engine 4 experience. And now if they upgrade it to 5, you're talking about some amazingly better graphics and maybe VR. So the dev team turned down their future star artist when she first applied to the company. I guess they came back. Pretty cool. They thought, if she comes to work with us, she won't be able to make the most of her talents, so they rejected her. 3 months later, she sent a DM and was amazed that she would be so bold after the CEO had rejected her so recently. So read the messages, in the end, hired her, and she drew the majority of Palworld's characters. So right there, they're claiming that she drew the majority of Palworld's characters. If they happen to be suspiciously close, frankly, I don't really care that they're suspiciously close, because if the design is purely a clone and it's copy and paste, it's not even copy and paste. It needs to be that model to be really a violation of IP, because the idea can't be protected. The embodiment can. And if the embodiment is so easy to clone that anybody with half a brain can do it, then I really don't have a problem. There's nothing unique about it. It just happens to look near, and all of them do. They look near.
Right, but I think that's the style. I mean,
yeah. I agree.
That to me doesn't say that it's a copy. I'm not saying. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. Look, I used to be an artist, and then I switched from freehand artistic design to using technology, computers, and I kind of lost my skill at hand drawing stuff. And altogether, I stopped even doing computer art. And I didn't really make a living at it or anything. I was still teaching myself and going to school for it, but I knew what my limit was, and I would never reach even this. And I accept the fact that in my domain, in my previous lives, everything that I have created was subject to competition. And other than a patent, right, or the constant use of a trademark, or the embodiment of a copyright, ideas can't be protected. And I used to fight that tooth and nail. Why? Because I thought that I was the idea guy. But as I had been told countless times over the years, ideas are worth a dime a dozen. It's execution that matters. I would counter that with, you can't execute on a vacuum. Not only did these people execute on a vacuum lacking skill, but it was filled by the idea of coming up with something that was close to Pokemon, but with guns and a little and more violence, right? And they hit it out of the park. It's a unique deployment. It's a unique embodiment, and it will not get sued. They might sue it, but it's not going to have any legs. And now they have money, so they'll be able to defend themselves, and eventually they'd get their money back. At least that's my assertion. So good on them. I'm glad, because I don't like the way that Nintendo really treats its customer base, but I'm expecting the Switch to now just set itself on fire. Let's keep going, unless you want to say something.
This one's really impressive, because this seems like it's almost a team that could have been anybody off the street, and somehow they managed to pull it together. And they hit like top statistics. I mean, this is really incredible.
Oh yeah, I think they're the first to hit 2 million simultaneous Steam users. I think they're the first, maybe the second. I'm not sure now. I'm starting to question myself. They're somewhere around the top 2 or 3, maybe 5. No, but they hit 2 million concurrent users playing Palworld on Steam, and it's everywhere. It's on other platforms. So just on Steam alone, 2 million simultaneous connections, concurrent connections. I think it's amazing. Oh, and servers are sold out. Like if you want to, in some places, servers for Palworld are sold out. You can't get it. The only thing that's really nipping at the heels, apparently, of Palworld is maybe Enshrouded now, which is a game that just recently dropped a couple of days ago. Anyway, let's keep on going.
By the way, Palworld is listed as the top in the top seller list in Steam.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's somewhere above 7 million. I said that it was going to hit 10. I don't know what its total sales are just yet.
I don't either. It doesn't show where I'm looking.
Gotcha. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in Reality Hacker. It might be on the show later tonight. Texas is already running out of water. The only reason why I actually did this is because it's from Reality Hacker and it was aggregated into it. I'm not sure what's going to come of this when I follow the link. So parts of the state are starting the year with low reserves, with light winter rains failing to replenish supply and scorching summer predicted. Key areas may be pushed to the brink, and they're kind of chomping at the bit to... yeah, I don't know. They're fighting for their independence, kind of a thing, and I'm just waiting. They're gonna go, "Hey, we really need water."
Yeah, let's get some federal assistance here.
Yeah, well, you have to be part of the social enterprise. So 2 consecutive summers of brutal heat and drought have left some parts of Texas with notably low water supplies going into 2024. A wet year or a well-placed hurricane could quickly pull these regions back from the brink. A well-placed hurricane, that's what you want to ask for.
I mean, do we want it there? That's what makes it sound as a positive.
It's kind of surreal, which is the reason all of this is kind of surreal. In the 21st century, we're dealing with drought for year after year while still discounting climate change as being the cause. Yet we know for a fact that it is. I mean, it's anthropomorphized climate change. We've made it. You know, it's a human thing. So the bad news is for places like far south Texas, where big reservoirs on the lower Rio Grande fell from 33% to 23% full over the past 12 months. So they've lost 10% of already being 1/3 the volume that they're supposed to be. A repeat of similar conditions would leave the reservoirs far lower than they've ever been, triggering an emergency response and an international crisis. But I don't know about international. They say pretty scary times.
Because that could affect Mexico's water supply as well.
I suppose. I mean, people from the other side of the border are going to try and come into Texas still. They still are now. And if I guess the rivers dry up, it'll be a whole lot easier to get across. You know, and they're trying to put barbed wire and stuff like that along the... yeah.
But one thing doesn't make sense to me, because Texas has been having flooding. So this is very interesting in light of drought conditions.
Yeah, well, they're not catching the water and stabilizing it somewhere. They're just, it's flooding.
Just like runoff or whatever.
Yeah. So also last month, the sprawling suburbs of central Texas between Austin and San Antonio, one groundwater district declared stage 4 drought for the first time in its 36-year history. So look at that. I mean, it's just dropping and dropping and dropping as the Rio Grande reservoirs approach record lows. Now, it has come and go, but the last time was 30 years ago, you know, when it was this low. I don't know. Is this going to be the cycle? I wonder if further back, right, from 90 to 95, and then from 95 to 2000, 2 or something like that.
Well, and I wonder if it's like other statistics that we see. I mean, we don't have a good enough long-term view of this, but like, is this the new norm to be at these lower levels? If so, that's going to be really problematic because then a little bit could tip it in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and we're not getting any global cooling, although there is some science saying that us throwing a bunch of stuff into the air actually cools the planet. But yeah, it's quite fascinating as we try and reverse global warming. Some of the bad stuff we do actually promotes global cooling.
I think didn't we talk about that in another article?
Yeah. Yep. But we need to know really what is going to stabilize and reverse the trend. And all of the science basically says stop dumping carbon into the air. But it says signs are not favorable. Expect warmer and drier again. That's what they're expecting now because of the flip and flop of La Nina and El Nino. We're still expecting another year to 2 of unseasonably hot because we have heated the water and the air, and it's the hot season, and then it'll flip again supposedly for 2 to 5 years, but we'll see what happens. Drought conditions in 2022 and 2023 struck with remarkably acute severity. Last year was the hottest on record for Texas and the Earth, according to NOAA, after a global heat wave shattered temperature records around the world. So if our discussion today is anything like anybody else's show when they talk about climate, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get some nasty grams. But you know what? The truth hurts sometimes, and I'm here to give you a hug if you need it. So not really. Anyway, the article goes into greater detail about what's going on in Texas, but suffice it to say that Texas, the largest state in the United States, is suffering from drought, and it's not going to abate for any time soon.
Is Texas the largest state?
Yeah. Isn't it?
I thought it was California.
Is? I thought it was Texas.
It's Alaska, then Texas.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Alaska.
And then California is third.
Okay, how about it's the largest state that is a livable region from one edge to the other.
I didn't know that.
It's the largest arable land state. How about that? I mean, you cannot live in most of Alaska.
No, because you might get eaten by a bear.
Hairy guys? Never mind. Anyway, the next article is over in Reality Hacker as well. This is aggregated probably because of the hacker aspect of this and the surreal aspect of this. 23andMe failed to detect account intrusions for months. And the reason why I actually included this in the Reality Hacker profile is because the potential to extrapolate a human face from the DNA has now been shown by an article.
And they run it through the facial recognition system.
That's right. So you can 3D model it. Yep. Yeah, go ahead. Did you want to keep talking about it? No?
I don't have anything else on that.
No. Yeah,
I also don't know what's going to be in the next show, so.
Yeah, so after this show is Reality Hacker, we actually talked about this, and we talked about the other article a couple of days ago, and we're going to talk about it today, right after this show. But 23andMe had been breached, and a whole bunch of DNA data was pulled from the system. It says, well, let's go over to the article. I can't log in, so I can't even talk about it. Hold on. Hopefully it doesn't pop back up. Oh, it does. This is dumb. Anyway, the article says here that they didn't know who it was that was in the system or that they were accessing any of the data. But this article also mentions the fact that police took a digital rendering of a suspect's face generated using DNA and ran it through a facial recognition system in a troubling incident reported for the first time by Wired. And this is right on the heels of 23andMe's intrusion, or I should say somebody's intrusion into 23andMe, where they just had no idea that there was information being stolen from their systems.
I think it's very interesting that this article is mentioning the other one that we're going to be talking about.
Yep. And that'll be tonight after this show. But the reason why I brought this up is because of the tie-in to, we can now create a deepfake of a face based off of the DNA, because we have knowledge about the prevalence of DNA being, what do they call it? The expression of DNA into the real world. So,
like the phenotype?
Correct. And there's another word, and it escaped my mind, but so it allows people skilled in the art to take that DNA and create facial structure, features, and then wrap it around a skeleton and animate it in real time, like a deepfake. It now can have a voice. All it has to do is get your voice because you're out there talking. And basically I can create a fake you. And then with AI, I can have it respond like you, because all I have to do is parse all of the stuff that you're posting online. And now it thinks like you, talks like you, knows you. It's unsettling, but I'll fix this. I actually have an account. I just didn't log in before the show, so sorry about that. The next article is over in Late Night Geeks. Can AI do ugly? Some thoughts on AI aesthetics, the challenge of uninsurability, and how to pitch biotech startups to non-experts are all compiled into this link. But it's over at TechCrunch Plus. It's a market analysis thing. And it'll be pretty limited. So too good to be true. Most tools claiming to detect AI generated text fail spectacularly. Their colleague Kyle Wiggers reported that's a paradox. They're only human, but a lot of the AI written pitches that they receive don't pass the sniff test yet. Their style and wordiness feel off. But then again, it's probably too early to expect machines to detect the je ne sais quoi.
I don't know what.
Well, I mean, that's the straight translation, but the missing element that makes it human,
like the essence.
Yeah. And so I can tell from my experiences with AI generated articles, AI generated submissions to me, that AI stuff is off. And the primary thing that piques my interest in it being fraudulent data is that it's not cited, nor can it be cited. The people that submit the material to me for review, they can't cite their sources. And I say, well, if you can't cite your sources, it's plagiarism. And they're like, well, no, I wrote it. And I said, well, then cite all of your sources. Otherwise, it's nothing more than opinion, and bye-bye. Not interested. And poof, they're gone. So this article actually goes deeper, but I'm not logged into. But I hope to remedy this problem. We actually react to the information from the page that we acquire from the sources. It's a little snippet, but I'll have to fix this as well. It sat here too long and I couldn't get out of it. So, okay, let's keep going though. You'll be able to read it when you follow the link through ohmTown. The next article is over in Technology Today. And it says farm bots, flavor of hills, and zero gravity beer inside the mission to grow food in space. Astronauts content themselves with freeze-dried gruel, but plans for crewed missions to Mars mean scientists need to create delicious, nutritious menus. I don't know about that.
I mean, are people going to space so that they have good food?
Yeah, at least not right now. You know, why don't you zero the friction and absolutely certify the safety, and then worry about comfort. 3 robots are growing vegetables on the roof of the University of Melbourne's student pavilion. As the author watches, the mechanical arm hovering over the crop like a fairground claw machine sprays a carefully measured dose of water over the plants. Automating the entire process of growing a crop. The greens themselves look fairly terrestrial. What is that? Cause lettuce?
I don't know.
Lettuce, basil, coriander, and moth-eaten kale, which wouldn't happen inside an enclosed farm like we have here in ohmTown. But they are actually prototypes for a groundbreaking research mission to grow fresh food in outer space. So this article is over at theguardian.com. James Shackle is the author. And yeah, that's what it looks like, I guess. Pardon me, I'm really sorry about the coughing. Look, a Raspberry Pi is driving the machine. At least one right there. And you can actually you can build this yourself. You can make little nutrient bottles and then have a Raspberry Pi in like squirt. I'm really sorry. Hold on.
So then it can kind of set up and do the watering for you.
Yeah. And depending on where you are, it can spray other things if it detects it. Like if you have mold or something like that, it can actually spray hydrogen peroxide or something else if you've got it. But most of the time, in an environment like this, you don't get any weeds, you don't get any predation. This is on the roof of something, so it's getting predation and weeds and anything else, birds and whatever can drop stuff in it. So it isn't necessarily the cleanest, but Professor Fuentes is part of the wonderfully named Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence in Plans for Space, a 7-year collaboration between 5 Australian universities, which had partnered with 38 organizations, including NASA, to crack the code of fresh, nutritious space food. That food isn't thermostabilized, where heat is used to destroy harmful organisms, irradiated, or served in freeze-dried packets. You've seen The Matrix, yeah. Fuentes says, the gruel they eat on the ship, that's the kind of what we're dealing with up there, which is nasty. Although, again, if it's nutrient dense, then here's how it should work, at least in space, at least until we're in the probably 23rd century. You provide the nutrients to the point where the biomass that has to be excreted is minimal. Why? Because you can't do much with that. You might be able to incinerate it, but what you don't want is a whole bunch of biomass just churning through a human body and then you poo it out. You want nothing but nutrients. Your body absorbs all the nutrients and there's nothing left or near nothing left. Just enough so that your body continues to function and you are healthy. Because as the book says, everybody poos. There is a book out there. Actually, I think it says
here first.
I think everything poos or something like that. It's not just everybody. I recently saw, what is the scorpion? I saw a scorpion do it. Don't get me started. Anyway, So the problems also arise when people have to eat the same thing, even a small rotation of similar things over and over again. Studies show that the diversity of food is very important for astronauts. Menu fatigue, particularly when you're living in a metal box floating in existential darkness, can lead to appetite loss, shrinking body mass, nutritional deficiencies, and other issues. Although I don't think that they've discovered what the real reason of shrinking body mass is. It's definitely not just eating a ton of stuff.
I thought it was related to the lack of gravity, so your muscles aren't really working at the same level as on Earth.
Right, and it can't be replicated. So I think that's the leading theory as to what shrinking body mass is. You don't have any resistance. And they've done things like treadmill studies and stuff like that, and I don't think that actually works. So I'm not sure anymore. I'd have to go and look and do a deeper dive into, and I'm sure it could be a Google search away, but shrinking body mass is actually pretty big thing. So to solve the riddle, the University of Melbourne team, which includes Dr. Claudia Gonzalez Viejo and Dr. Nir Lipovetsky, sorry, I had it, but then it wandered off like a tool bag in space. They're using open source robotic farming machines called FarmBots and a combination of digital sensors, AI, facial analysis to measure how food grows in certain conditions and how microgravity affects our experience of eating it. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, so it'll plant seeds, irrigate, harvest, spray for disease, and even record things such as temperature and growth rates. That's actually all terrestrial. You can do that right now here on Earth. Doing it in space.
Right, but I don't think it's widely used, right? Like, I think it's some startups that do things like that.
Correct, yeah. Well, I mean, for growth rates, that is easy to record things like temperature and even moisture so that you can actually irrigate them properly. That's all automated right now. Even we do that here in ohmTown, or could activate it pretty easy. Planting seeds through automation, though, is not something that many do. You can, but it's usually industrial side. You don't have micro farms doing it, and this in space would be a micro farm. You wouldn't be able to do large scale. You wouldn't need it. You need just enough biomass to feed your crew, but this is really what it should be. Just enough to feed the people within that space and or produce enough that they can store, but they want fresh. They don't want flash frozen or anything that needs to be stored long term, because that can actually go bad. And when that goes bad in space, it's bad. That's how you end up with mold in the ISS.
Or lost tomatoes.
Yeah, exactly. Where they find them later. And they talk about Wonka style pill meals that are being researched. It says, although NASA has been aware of the benefits of microencapsulation for some time, it's hard to say when this technology will go into orbit. But that's what I'm interested in. I want to be able to just take I want an all-in-one meal that isn't disgusting, and eat that and get the day's required nutrients. At least there was a time in my life where I was working so much that that was an actual motivating factor. And that actually led to things like Soylent, the nutrient drink, that had issue after issue until it solved it by removing things that made it unique. So if this is what happens in space, growing these greens in space, and everything is manageable and pretty like this, then I think you've got a win.
Right, you need to make it appetizing enough that people will still want to eat.
Yeah, one of the biggest issues that I've seen is people are trying to do something new with the food, or I should say, they're trying to do something old with the new food. So, like, for instance, veggie burgers, right? Because burgers are the accepted format. They're trying to make vegetarian versions of the meat product, right? And I think that's really wrong. What needs to happen is society needs to adapt to a new product and just go, okay, we don't need a vegetarian patty. We just need vegetarian food that is approachable, cost effective, manageable, and just change that dynamic. And I think a lot of newer restaurants are doing that cater to vegetarians more, but trying to make it smell and taste and act like something that already exists, but this isn't, means that there is dissatisfaction to a greater degree, and that's what this kind of is. We need to change the dynamic and just make what we make nutritious and consumable, and not sit there and go, well, we're going to have 500 square feet of space to farm because you don't like eating, a brick of nutrient.
Right. Well, then don't even get going on how many different eating preferences there are, right?
Exactly.
Like, well, I don't like that plant. Can we make cabbage or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what they're talking about, because it's menu. What did they refer to it as? Menu fatigue, right there. Menu fatigue. You eat the same thing too long and you don't like it. But come on, you're living in a box in space. I think that should be the low-hanging fruit you get over. You don't demand a Michelin restaurant flying in the metal box next to you. Not yet. Not yet. All right, let's keep going. The next
might
article.
Be a new niche industry, like space catering or something.
What's the thing that delivers food? Not like Uber Eats, but DoorDash. Yeah, in space. DoorDash in space. SpaceX Dash. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Store that inspired Toy Story is closing amid San Francisco violence. I refer this to when opportunity costs too much. The cost of living in San Francisco is going through the roof. Crime it says that it's decreased, but the public perception of the city is at its lowest point ever. This is something that I've heard elsewhere. But what I have seen in videos is that street after street of stores is closing. That actually allows, because there's fewer people in the city, crime can take place because there aren't any witnesses. There isn't necessarily security. The stores can't afford to put security in it. So when a crime takes place, it's largely like plain daylight.
There's no deterrent effect because they're not necessarily getting caught or prosecuted.
Right. Benjamin Lynch over at Newsweek.com put the article together, and it says it says a historic, but it's an historic toy store that helped inspire Pixar's Toy Story franchise in San Francisco is to close after 75 years because of perils and violence. Joffrey's. I don't know why I said Joffrey. Jeffrey's Toys is due to shut in a matter of weeks, citing local crime, inflation, and the demise of retail across the world. No, it's not. Physical retail, yes.
Right, the brick and mortar, yes.
Why? Because the cost of living, cost of operations is through the roof. San Francisco, with its proximity to Silicon Valley, became one of the country's main tech hubs in the past decades as giants like Google, Apple, Facebook, Twitter set up their headquarters. However, with the pandemic, many of San Francisco's tech workers moved further out to cheaper cities, while other people decided against relocating there. You know why? Because you can do coding anywhere. As long as you have a good work ethic and the right infrastructure in place, you can do software engineering from a beach. And butt in seat doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have great camaraderie with your coworkers. It just means that they're really going to be able to spot the asshole. Anyway, after 75 years of gratefully serving the San Francisco community, the store will be closing next month. Ken Sterling, the attorney for Jeffrey's Toys, said, per the San Francisco Chronicle, he added that he had told the store staff not to speak to the press. Well, what are you going to do? Fire me?
Well, right. I mean, okay, so it's been around since 1938. I didn't know Toy Story was based on an actual store.
Right? When I thought of when I first saw that headline, I thought of Big.
Yes, that I can see, right?
Yeah.
I think that was based on FAO Schwartz, if I'm not mistaken.
The big piano that's there. So the leadership of the city of San Francisco and the Downtown Association have their work cut out for them on how to revitalize what was once a vibrant and fun downtown experience. Yeah, you're going to have to bring people back, but the cost of the experience is too damn high because greedy bastards are causing the prices to go through the roof from the supply level all the way up through the strata out to retail. And you tell me a product and all of its, and I can tear apart its various components, and I'll tell you where the supply side jacked the price up at the source of the raw materials. Why? Because there was money in the system, and nobody can leave money in consumers' pockets. You have to get it all because y'all are greedy bastards. In 2023, San Francisco's crime was lower than any period in the last 10 years except for 2020. A statement issued by the city on January 23rd this year said property crime had decreased by 34% compared to 2022. Maybe it's because San Francisco is now empty.
Well, right. It's going more in the other direction, I guess. But San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, used to be a very safe city.
It was.
Comparatively to other large cities. So, I mean, this is really, it's been a very interesting transition over the last couple of years.
Yep. But people started highlighting the fact that there was a lot of crime, a lot of empty stores. And I think that
companies were like, we're leaving the city.
Yep. Key to the improvement was 35% decrease in shoplifting, the most of any in 24 large American cities, according to data. Yeah, I mean, that's just it, right? A decrease.
Yeah, but how much did it increase before it decreased?
There was a significant spike in 2021-2022, however, and the data used by the city's government also failed to mention specific areas of San Francisco. Local perceptions of crime are also generally negative. So, basically, this is post-pandemic response to the fact that it's now kind of a vacuum. Companies are leaving it. I've actually seen videos of empty store after empty store. I haven't been to San Francisco in quite some time, so I guess my perception of this is really from an outsider. But yeah, I don't know. See, the pandemic had a major impact on downtown San Francisco stores, with half of them closing since 2019. Half. Jeffrey's Toys.
I don't think I've seen that stat anywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, there's like one store on a block, and then it's empty, and it's not even the anchor store. You know, it's not a corner store. But it's wildly expensive. So why is it still wildly expensive? Lower your damn prices.
You know, that's a great point. Like, if all the large employers are leaving the area, or some of them, and there's plenty of open space, at least on the commercial side, right? Shouldn't housing be dropping precipitously?
Well, commercial real estate taking a loss is a tax write-off. So there was one place where I'm like, hey, how about we put a company in this business? And when I was talking to the agent for that property, they said, no, we're going to hold out for somebody that's willing to pay us this price. And I'm like, you know, it doesn't need to be a long-term agreement. If you want the company to bow out, you know, just give them 90 days notice. They'll find another place. Well, we can't show it. Okay, you don't want any money then, so I guess I'm just going to tell the client, go somewhere else. So they say they hope all of this will change, and that they just can't keep covering the loss every month without help from the city. Yeah, That is the price you pay for business, I suppose. You know, I mean, when you sit there and say to somebody, and I'm not accusing them in particular, but just the context of this is, if you sit there and say, hey, why aren't you paying your employees more? They just say, oh, we can't, you know, and we're taking all of the risk. We deserve our 6-digit salary. But then when the fit hits the shan, they're like, we need the government's help. Well, no, you know, if you know, taxpayer dollars should go to taxpayers, not just to the companies. But if there is, like, for instance, the economic collapse in 2008, bailed out banks that should have collapsed. And would the economy have crashed along with it? Yeah, to a point. But I know there were banks that were still stable through that. I know for a fact that there were banks that were stable and didn't need the money, but all of them had to take
probably
money.
Took the money,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then they paid it back, and others still haven't. But suffice it to say, the risk takers would have been set aflame, but all of that money infused into the system wouldn't have caused inflation to the point where we are now. So, and since 2008, something like a doubling of our debt has occurred. It's just a wild amount of money. Anyway, let's keep going. I don't want to soapbox. Too late. So the next article is over in ohmTown Daily as well. Instacart wants to turn grocery shopping into Pokemon Go to get you to buy more using smart carts. They're trying to
Palworld.
Yeah, well, I guess it's Palworld. It's a Pokemon with carts, or let's call it Palworld with carts. They're trying to gamify grocery shopping with its Caper smart carts. An executive said the carts, which contain touchscreens, can display games that encourage customers to buy more. Retail Dive reported. Ultimately, where we want to take it is Pokemon Go, which when you start using Pokemon Go as marketing for your product, you're going to get sued by Nintendo. You're using their mark. You're using their name. Unless they say, yeah, go ahead, you're already violating their mark. It is a world famous brand, Pokemon Go. It is a world famous brand, Pokemon. This isn't just an idea, right? Pokemon. It's not an idea. It is a product. It is
exactly a whole enterprise.
It
franchise.
Is a business trademark. It has copyright as well. So if you're sitting there running around calling it Pokemon Go, you're already in violation. So Nintendo should be going after Instacart, not Palworld. Palworld isn't making the comparison. They don't say, "Hey, we're Pokemon Go" or "Pokemon with guns." Everybody else is making that. Anyway, the article is over at Business Insider. Alex Bitter, Bittr, is the author. The carts, which contain touchscreens, can display games that encourage customers to buy more. I don't know. This seems... Why does this seem unethical? You know, this is one of those gamification things where they give you a bonus to spend more money. It just seems... I think
somebody's going to end up suing them, like at a state or a city or something. Like, hey, you're preying on people that just need their groceries or whatever.
Yeah, you're basically making it like a casino kind of a thing. You know, if you spend $5 more, then we'll give you a free bonus. But to find out what the free bonus is, you have to spend those $5. But let's see what it says. If you know that the shopper generally shops $70 and you want them to get to $80, you now have a mechanism to try to push them over the top. Ultimately, where we want to take it is Pokemon Go. Cough, cough. Referencing the smartphone game released in 2016 that prompts users to find Pokemon by wandering around sidewalks, parks, and other places in augmented reality. So they want to... Oh, it says the company's Caper Cart can show shoppers ads or discounts for products based on their buying habits, Instacart has said. But some of those offers could include gamified elements such as spinning a wheel on the cart. I mean, it's like gambling. It's like what do they call them? Secret boxes?
Oh, blind boxes.
Blind boxes. Yeah, they refer to them as blind boxes. So you don't know what it is until you spend the money to get it. The coffee chain lets customers who are part of its loyalty program win prizes, including a lifetime supply of Starbucks drinks. Starbucks is one source of inspiration for Instacart, Macintosh said. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the idea of gamification around spending habits. Gamification. There's gamification in a lot of things, and gamification in skill development, in academia, and games themselves.
Right, encouraging good behaviors or learning skills or
right, not just spending money in the hopes of getting something that you don't really need, but because it's gamified, to me, it just seems creepy. But again, it's one of those things where you can't just let people have money in their pocket. You have to do the endorphin rush or a dopamine hit and make them want, you want their money. You don't want them to actually have, and you know, everybody's going to sit there and go, oh, we want them to have a positive retail experience. That's code for they want your money, and they don't care
exactly
if you don't have enough
it's
rent
like
money.
When they put relaxing music on in the store or something,
sure.
Right? They want you to spend more money, spend more time there.
Yeah, casinos are the same way. They have really busy floor and bright lights on the ceiling so that you lose track of the time. There's no windows. They pump, smells in. All you need to do is spend on the casino. This is the same thing. They don't care that you don't have rent. They want your money, and so they'll gamify it because they know that you can be manipulated into buying. Okay, we got to keep going. This article kind of got munched, but I'll correct it. And we'll go straight on over to the source, and it's usually Nexstar that causes that. But anyway, Alex Mardashoe. 9 species in 33 states may soon be on the endangered list, according to the U.S. wildlife officials. After reviewing 8 species native to the United States and 2 from Southeast Asia, wildlife officials determined 9 of them warrant advancing to the next step under the Endangered Species Act. Before being added to the official list of endangered and threatened wildlife or plants and receiving all the protections that come with it, species go through a review and monitoring. So, what are these things?
Looks like there's fish, salamander, toad, a bee,
rabbit,
firefly, rabbit, yes.
Go away. A pygmy plant. Rabbit, Railroad Valley toad in Nye County, Nevada. Southern Plains bumblebee. Oh, that sucks. It's a large bee with short hair.
We do love our bees.
We do love bees. If there's a wasp on here, good. But bees? No, bees are good. Yeah, I want bees to stay. Wasp, they can kiss my ass. Yellow spotted woodland salamander. I love salamanders. White margined penstemon. Is that a...
Oh, it's a plant. I didn't know what that was.
Has smooth stems and pink and purple petals. I wish they had pictures, but they don't. Anyway, the list is on the website. You can follow the link through ohmTown over to the source. If I keep clicking this, I'm going to go insane because it keeps popping up, but we'll keep going.
It's like, how many times can we get somebody to click that away?
They're gamifying it. I'm actually powering something.
They must be teamed up with Instacart.
Going nuts. So the last article is over in Rounders Gear, which is all about table gaming, like poker. And I'm not a big fan of gambling per se. I endorse people being situationally aware and understanding what their limits are. Go in with a budget. Don't lose your mind or your shirt. If you feel you have a gambling addiction, then contact somebody that can stop you from gambling, and you can seek help for the addiction. I don't have resources that I post because everybody's location is a little bit different. Maybe I can find one that's national or international that I trust, but ask a friend. It doesn't take much. You just got to set aside pride and go and ask somebody for support. So this article is over in the Rounders Gear channel, and it's called NFL Warn, or the title is NFL Warns Players About Las Vegas Activities During Super Bowl. Is that 53? 63? I don't remember what the number is.
Yeah. Or no, 58.
58. That's right. So that's the 50 and then the 8. Okay. Totally forgot my Roman numbers. Anyway, so the reason why I even chose this is because I thought it was silly. NFL player, okay, they're an adult. They're playing a game for millions of dollars a year. If they want to have a good time in Vegas, they're gonna have a good time in Vegas.
I think I know why they're putting this out. Number one, if they're a well-known player, right, people are going to pay attention to whatever they're doing, right? Everybody has cell phones and cameras and whatever. And then secondly, who knows what is in the contracts between NFL and the players? And the NFL is probably trying to get out in front of it. So when somebody goes down in flames, be like, we put out a warning.
The NFL for the first time is hosting its biggest game of the year in Las Vegas, the casino and sports betting town that was shunned by the Professional Football League for decades until everything changed in May of 2018. Well, they have the statement, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, which is actually a misconception of what actually happens. What happens in Vegas actually gets recorded and then posted on various websites. This is why you don't do things in public anywhere that you can go. I could probably stand right there and record something. I could probably stand right there and record something. So I understand what you are saying. I agree entirely with what you're saying. I think it's still silly that an organization is saying it to adults who have so much money that they may not care, right? So they've subsequently embraced sports betting, and odds makers have been credited for significantly increasing fan engagement, leading to higher broadcast and streaming viewership. Again, they don't care about your addiction, y'all. If they want your money, they don't care that you lose your shirt, your significant other, your car, whatever. I'll sit there and say, hey, if you don't pay attention to your spending, you're going to lose everything. So they send out a notice, similar to, while in Vegas, players participating in the Super Bowl are prohibited from engaging in any form of gambling, including casino games and betting on any sport, the NFL letter read. This is basically a conflict of interest statement.
I didn't even think about it from that standpoint. I was just thinking about like wild behavior captured on camera, etc., violating the contract. But yeah, I can see where that would be a problem. You're going into the game and you're betting against your team or something.
Yep. Or even the perception, the optics of it.
Right.
So, and you don't want conspiracy theory starting to, start coursing through the veins of the NFL because somebody was at a casino and overheard talking about betting on the teams. So the article is over at casino.org, one of the few that we actually aggregate regarding table games. There's just not a lot of information out there. David O'Connor is the author of this article over at casino.org. And we actually try to limit what gets aggregated, but the source actually provides the whole damn thing, and I even have the aggregator limited to what it accepts, and it grabs like most of the article. It's so weird. I actually stop it after 100 characters or 100 words. So at any rate, the big game on February 11th will be decided tomorrow when Kansas City Chiefs play at the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game. This is today, actually. Right? Oh, no, it's Sunday. Yeah, so tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to see when the article was published.
Yeah. The Ravens are favored by 4 points, and over-under is at 44.5 points. Okay. The evening showdown is at Detroit Lions visiting the San Francisco 49ers, with the home team favored by a touchdown and the over-under at 51.5. I'm not into all of that. If you are into all of the gambling on this stuff, me personally, I like a good game, hard hits, fun. So don't lose your mind, don't lose your shirt, and have a good time.
I was going to say, I bet the NFL is hoping that the Kansas City Chiefs make it to this year's Super Bowl.
Hey, I wonder why, right?
Think about all the publicity. Like, Super Bowl always gets record viewership, but it might really get record viewership if the Chiefs make it this year.
So is Swiftian still a thing? Are they still Kansas City Chiefs still drawing in because of the Swifties?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's articles that and the fans are liking it. Like, you see articles about parents that are into football, and now they're bonding with their daughters who are watching it because of the Taylor Swift connection. I mean, there's just been so much around it, basically.
You know what's not mentioned in this article?
Taylor Swift?
Yeah. They didn't even use that as a means. I
would think they would have thrown a line or something in there.
Something in there with Kansas City. There's nothing in there. It's pretty funny. All right. Anyway, that's it for ohmTown Daily News Show. I am Mayor Watt. That is not ohmTown. We got to get back into the party bus. Sorry, everybody. Get out of casino.org. Get into the party bus. We drive all the way back down Main Street. And ta-da, we have the front page, but not the most current, because it's always dangerous because of all of the politics. Anyway, there's a measles outbreak, by the way, so go get vaccinated.
Well, and then think about when you might have gotten vaccinated before.
Yeah, and get another
depending
one.
On when you were born. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the way, all of the evidence about vaccinations being detrimental, blah, blah, blah. It was a lie. It was fraudulent. Don't fall prey to misinformation. Okay, that's it. I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com. Up there is the visualizer for the artificial intelligence that keeps Mayor Watt out of trouble from time to time. Sometimes puts Mayor Watt in trouble.
Hey, wait a second here.
Different context. See you for Reality Hacker in about, 30 minutes.
Okay, we will. Well, good night, ohmTown citizens. Be sure to tune back in for Reality Hacker. And we'll see you tomorrow for 6 p.m. Eastern for The Daily Show.
I thought you were going to keep talking, and then you stopped, and then I was just about to say bye, and you started talking again. Come on, you got to warn a mayor. See you in a little bit. Bye-bye.